Hello, this is Chaudhry Mahmood Anwar. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to brief you about directed acyclic graphs or DAGs. Well, DAGs are very popular in natural sciences and in engineering to study the causal relationships or cause and effect relationships. However, it's not much popular or common in social sciences and subjects like business management and organizational studies. If you want to better comprehend and assimilate the causal relationships, I would recommend to study the DAGs in detail because DAGs provide a much better explanation of causal relationships in a graphical way as compared to other graphical representation methods like simple causal diagrams or path diagrams. The DAGs provide much deeper and detailed graphical representation of causal effects. Now I'll brief you about what are DAGs and how DAGs are constructed. This is a very simple DAG in which X is connected to Y. It means that X is causing Y. I will use very simple terminologies to explain DAG in this explainer. In the literature, you will find some difficult terminologies, some easy terminologies. For instance, you will find the terminologies for your x and y variables like exposure and outcome, independent and dependent, etc. But I'll use the terminology of cause and effect. Cause to represent the x variable and effect to represent the y variable. Mean the variable who is causing the outcome variable is cause, and the variable which is caused is the y variable. In the DAGs, we use nodes to represent variables and arrows to represent causal effects. This is a simple causal DAG in which you can see that X has a causal effect on M and M has a causal effect on Y. Now I'll explain this simple causal DAG in more detail. To explain these DAGs, I will use the kinship terminologies, although many other terminologies are there in literature. But I will use the kinship terminologies because I believe that these terminologies are very easy to understand, assimilate, and to remember as well. It's very easy to remember the kinship terminologies because, of course, we are already aware of kinship terminologies in our daily lives. In this simple causal DAG, the X is the parent of M and M is the child of X, whereas the X and M are ancestors of Y and M and Y are descendants of X. So you can see that we are using the kinship terminologies like parents, children, ancestors, descendants, and everyone is familiar with these kinship terminologies. So it's very easy to remember and understand. Well, if you understood this explanation of DAG and how to represent the DAG by using kinship terminologies, then it's wonderful. Here is a short exercise to know the level of your understanding with these kinship terminologies. Okay, click on a parent of X. So here the parent of X is D. Click on parent of X. You can click on any parent. It's B. Click on a descendant of X. It's F. Click on parent of X. It's B. Click on descendant of X. It's F. Click on ancestor of X. It's D. Click on descendant of X. It's C. Great. This is how you can test your knowledge of kinship terminologies in the context of DAGs. Now I'll explain how to handle certain variables that are called covariates in DAGs. We know that once we set the cause and effect variables, then the remaining variables become covariates because they vary with x variable and have an impact on y. So this is the first covariate, confounder. Confounder variable is ancestor of cause and effect variables. In this diagram, you will see that z is ancestor of x, which is cause, and z is ancestor of y, which is effect. Such a variable will be called confounder. The second covariate is mediator. In this diagram, you can see that x is causing m and m is causing y. What does it mean in the terminology of DAGs? X is the parent of m and m is the parent of y. In other words, m is the descendant of x and ancestor of y. In other words, m is a descendant of cause and ancestor of y. So such a relationship is known as mediator relationship. The third one is proxy confounder. Well, proxy confounders are covariates but not themselves confounders, but they lie between the confounders and the cause or effect. In other words, a proxy confounder is a descendant of a confounder. Here you can see in this diagram that A is the proxy confounder and it is a descendant of a confounder. Here Z is the confounder and A is descendant of C and an ancestor of either cause or effect. In this diagram, the A, which is a proxy confounder, is ancestor of the effect Y. The M could also be considered as a proxy confounder in this diagram, but it can also be considered as a mediator. However, the point to be noted is the role as mediator or proxy confounder is not mutually exclusive. The next covariate is competing cause. In this diagram, you can see that Z is the competing cause, and competing cause is neither a confounder nor a proxy confounder nor a mediator. In fact, the competing cause is not related to the actual cause, but competing cause is related to the effect. It means that competing cause is a parent of effect or is an ancestor of effect. In the next diagram, you can see that cause X is connected to effect Y. This is a causal relationship. But here you can see that X is also ancestor of A and Z is ancestor of A and Z is also ancestor of Y. This is a very special case. Here the causal effect will transfer from X to Y, but the causal effect will not transfer from X to Y through this A and Z path. The reason is here the A is a collider. The definition of collider is that collider is directly connected to its ancestors in the causal chain, in the DAG. Therefore, this A variable is called collider because it will not allow to pass any effect from X to Y through the link X A Z Y. Now again, I will show you a little exercise to test the knowledge of the covariates I have explained. Let's see. Click on confounder. Here the C is confounder. Click on mediator. B is mediator. Click on confounder. G is confounder. Click on competing cause. E. Click on mediator. C. Click on proxy confounder. A. Click on proxy confounder again. D. Great. Well done. So this is how we can test our knowledge of covariates in DAGs. Now I'll explain what is the D separation and deconnection in DAGs. In this diagram, you can see that X has a causal connection with R and R has a causal connection with Y. In other words, we will say that X has a causal connection with Y. So the signal from X is transmitting to Y via R because R is the child of X and parent of Y. So in this case, we will say that X and Y are deconnected. This is another example of deconnection. In this case, the X and Y are deconnected. You can see that U, T, S, R, and X are connected, and U, V, and Y are connected. So this chain is deconnected, but this path does not reflect a causal effect. Now see the next graph. In this graph, X is connected to R is connected to S, and S is connected to T. U is connected to T, U is connected to V, and V is connected to Y. But you can see that T is the collider. I have already explained collider. T is the collider. Therefore, this T will block any transfer of effect or signal from X to Y. Therefore, we will say that X and Y are de-separated. Always remember, when there is a collider in the causal chain, the X, the cause, and effect are de-separated. And when there is no collider in the causal chain, the X and Y are de-connected, but whether they reflect the causal effect or not, it depends on the direction of the relations. The next concept is conditioning on colliders. If a collider is a member of the conditioning set Z or has a descendant in Z, then it no longer blocks any path that traces this collider. This concept is also known as Bergson paradox in statistics, and it is used when we measure a common effect of two independent causes. The causes becomes dependent because finding the truth of one makes the other less likely, and refuting one implies the truth of the other. So, the Bergson paradox requires a slightly special treatment when we condition on colliders or their descendants. So, in this case, the conditioning set Z consists of the variable R and P. You can see that S and Y are deconnected by Z because the collider, this T, has a descendant P in the conditioning set Z. This descendant P of collider unblocks the path S, T, U, V, and Y. However, the point to be remembered is X and U are still de-separated by Z, which is the conditioning set. Well, this was my explainer about DAGs, and I hope it would be beneficial for you, and you will start learning DAGs now. And I would recommend and encourage all the social scientists, especially the management, business, and organizational scholars, to frequently use DAGs in their research so that they may properly understand and analyze the causal relationships. Thank you very much for watching this explainer.